Hello and welcome to a short presentation on my mini-study. I'm Anna Miarka-Grzelak and my research topic is Identifying Student Support Needs from an Institutional Insight. All higher education institutions want their students to be happy and satisfied, but there are always students who face both academic and personal issues that hold them back from being successful and from moving forwards towards graduation. This study focuses on understanding student support services that impact enrollment and persistence from the institutional perspective, where the institutional insight is the experience of college employees dealing with and observing students on a daily basis. It is very common that college employees interact with students solely within their own departments. For instance, faculty teach and advise, support staff provide different kinds of help, but it is rare that the different groups share their insights with one another. I believe that integrating their knowledge and insights on student behavior can be beneficial in developing effective student support. This study focused on one public comprehensive college and its broadly defined undergraduate student services. Many institutional processes and approaches may either raise students' potential for success or jeopardize their progress. Comparing and analyzing the experience of working with students in different capacities can offer opportunity to learn more about the student population and to recognize unique student needs. To do so, I formulated the following overarching research questions for this study. Which support services appear to have the highest positive impact on student success? What are the most common students' needs that the institution is not able to fulfill and why? What are the biggest internal barriers to making changes in student support? From these questions, a longer list of related questions was developed and used during this research. I have chosen a phenomenological approach as my methodology since I wanted to understand the phenomenon of delivering student support services from the perspective of people who are involved in providing that support. My goal was to research whether the participants' perspective had shared elements and whether the findings could help me identify ways to improve or adjust services to better support college students. The method I used consisted of in-depth interviews with 3 stakeholders from a college where I used to work several years ago. Knowing that their student retention was suffering, the college seemed a perfect place for this study. With the help of my contact there, I identified 3 people who agreed to participate in this research. One was an academic affairs administrator, 1 faculty member, and 1 was a frontline student services employee. The interviews were audio recorded and then transcribed for a thorough analysis. In addition to the transcription, during the interviews and after them, I made notes of observations and any thoughts triggered by the participants' answers and comments. As someone who has worked in that college environment, I was cautious about bridling my own experiences to approach the data without bias and any assumptions. Then I handled the data in 5 consecutive steps. First, I transcribed and reviewed the data. Then I identified meanings and coded them. Then I clustered the codes into categories and then themes as they emerged. I verified my understandings and conclusions with the participants. And finally, I wrote up my findings based on the analysis. After careful review and thorough coding, the participants' answers started quickly forming into common clusters of meanings. The fact that the participants identified similar issues and showed thorough awareness of the barriers that needed work validated my conclusions. From the initial open coding, the words and phrases were easily clustered into a list of services that worked and into a list of particular barriers to making the services widely accessible. The clusters merged into 4 distinct categories. First, existing services that are effective, but only for students who, on a regular basis, engage with the college. Existing services that are not used by students who are unsure about their path to graduation and for a variety of reasons do not engage with their advisors or any support offices. Institutional barriers, such as complicated internal processes or poor onboarding of new students. And finally, non-existent but needed services that included mental health counseling and work, life, and school balance help. The four categories formed into two themes, two distinct types of students: self-reliant and engaged students, and frail students dependent on external help. The data indicated that each group should be approached differently by the institution, both in communications and personal attention. So if help-dependent students had a better chance of learning about and using existing services, they would become more engaged and eventually empowered by being able to actually finish their degree. The aim of the study was to discover the institutional insight on what current support services are helping students and which ones may be creating obstacles for them. The results showed that there is a shared understanding on what supports students need, despite the fact that they are observed from different institutional areas. For the benefit of this course, the research was limited to one public college, but I will recommend that these questions should be used in a broader scope project in the future in order to compare similar colleges and their student success outcomes, depending on the services that they provide. Also, a separate study on the same subject, but from a student perspective, would allow to validate and streamline the findings that could easily lead to an institutional action plan. That concludes this overview presentation of my study. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.